think we're ready to go. We're going to bring to order the December 16th Board of Selectmen's meeting. Board of Selectmen's meetings are generally recorded for transmission on Berlin Cable and YouTube. Your voice and image may be recorded. We have approval of minutes, just December 9th, Mary?
Yes.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
So seconded.
Okay. Any changes, questions, comments? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Correspondence. I think we just put this on there to say that.
Do we ever have any? Some?
Well, there are certain things that could be considered correspondence that sometimes go under the business items, so.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, general public comment. Oh, look at all those questions. All right. It's about 7:05, and so if Chief Clerk could come up. Hi.
I'm gonna take this off so I don't blind you. Anyone else who comes up there, fair game?
That wouldn't have been bothering me at all.
All right.
The monthly report for the fire and EMS department for November of 2019 is as follows. There was 50 total incident responses, 1.6 per day, and it was broken down into 11 fire, 25 EMS responses on the ambulance. There was an additional, on the ambulance, 12 motor vehicle accidents, which you have a ton of accidents for a small town. You really do.
Cut across.
The traffic, yeah, it is. It's the cut.
Yeah.
Yeah,
across.
yeah, and the narrow roads, whatever, there's a lot that goes into that, but I'm sure the chief, Galvin, would be an expert to ask on that. And then there was one miscellaneous type call, and then one fire mutual aid, the latter went mutual aid to Hudson, they had a building fire. So that was like a first time in a while, I think they've been on mutual aid like that, so. The Capital Improvements Committee initial meeting was held on Tuesday, 26 November, and I thought it went well. There were some 4 items that were put on. One was removed prior to the meeting, so there was actually 3 that kind of moved forward. And the 4th one had discussion just to see where it was and what it was about, and kind of education type thing for CIC, but it's like the other 2 were the second year and the final year of a purchase for the rest of the SCBA, which was started last year. The second and final year of the purchase of the personal protective equipment, which is the coats and the pants that the operational personnel wear. And then a replacement for car 2, which is a pickup truck that when I came in August was you could lift up the floor mat, and it was kind of like a Fred Flintstone vehicle. You could pedal it. The hole was so big in the floor, and no reverse on it. So that's in the line to be. I think it was in line last year. I shouldn't say I think. I know it was in line last year, and they put it off for a year. So that's back to replace that. And there was good discussion with the highway superintendent, and he recommended adding a plow to it so that it could help out driveways during a severe weather event. If it was run out in front of the ambulance, you could open up driveways with it, and you could also help around the station until their crews got freed up to come in and really open up the parking lot so that they could open up in front of the bays and around the building with it here. So it's like that was a strong recommendation for him to add that to that. So after some good discussion, it was decided to put that in there.
What was the item that you deferred?
It was a car for the fire prevention officer. He runs I think it's a 14, it's an old, one of the police cars, and it's got 114,000 miles, and it's got just shy of $9,000 worth of repairs.
Coming up.
Equipment and labor that will need to be done if it's going to be used. And it could be nursed. One person, it's down to one person operating it now, just to keep it as little activity as possible.
Yeah.
And so that could be nursed to July 1 in FY '21, but moving forward, I think that it's with the addition of the car 2, which is the pickup truck, he can utilize that during the day. If it's needed for emergencies, he can come off the inspections and bring it back. Then at night, the OIC of the 3 duty groups will utilize it. And communications-wise, it's set up the same as car 1. So if that went down, the chief could use that for communications also. So there's some redundancy with communications instead of just having 1. And I think it'll be a good year, many years of useful service of that. It's a Chevy, the Chevy ones. I don't have a pickup truck. 3/4 ton or a ton. I think it's a 3/4 to a ton. It's like it's a little bit beefier because of the plow, but it's like be a good vehicle, last a long time. Easily get 12, 15 years of service out of it.
Okay.
Is it used daily? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to ask if it's possible we replace the police cars on a yearly basis. Is it possible to take another one of the police cars and move it so that we're not running a 3/4 ton pickup truck and using the fuel and resources
The question
for
was
that?
asking, one wasn't available from the police. It wasn't.
Well, maybe not. So even when they replace the car next year, or maybe
No,
do
I
that
asked
yearly?
that question to
Huh.
Chief Galvin. One wasn't.
Okay.
He said either, I'm not sure the exact reason.
Oh, maybe
But
it
that
was
was
the
before we
funky car
even
that-
visited that, we asked, is there anything else available again with
Okay.
decent mileage on it and not
All right.
not too rough a shape? And he said,
Yeah.
no.
I would just strongly discourage using a pickup truck that big from an energy conservation standpoint for basic inspections.
Yeah. No, it's not the perfect way to do it,
Yeah.
but it would get him by for a year until another vehicle could maybe be purchased, or one became available somehow through whatever means that they had available to get vehicles.
So on the inspections, is there ever, excuse me, like a partnership with building inspector or the other 2 inspectors? Gas, help me out, and electric? I mean, or is it like everybody goes to the same site? Just to try and cut down on the use of,
That makes huge sense. I'm not sure what the building
The
inspectors.
Building does, right?
Building and fire tend to go out on
together.
inspections together whenever they can.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
tag
but they
team a
use
lot.
the vehicle here, I
Yeah,
think,
they,
right?
and to their credit and to your credit for having them do it, they tag team a lot of buildings at the same time, which is really good for the inspections, because the tenant and/or the owner gets the voice from both people at the same time. So that's a really great way to do your inspections if you can, like schools and all those type of things. You tag team them. So it's like they do it an awful lot. Dave said, goes by the house, says, yep, I'll be out and going with the building inspector. They spend a lot of time in the apartments together and stuff. The Fit Factory over to Highland Park there, up on the hill by Cabela's. So it's like, but I'm just not sure of what the building inspector does for a vehicle, if he uses his own and.
He uses his
Okay,
own.
yeah. So-
Yeah.
so does our fire truck ever, the fire marshal truck, does it ever go out of town? I mean, I don't cut HUD.
Training.
All right, so just over to Sudbury. Ish.
It went to Auburn
Okay.
last week they do the 5-mention training there. It's held in someplace central in the state usually, so, yep. I said, you're gonna make it, I actually joked with him when he left, I said, you're gonna make it back. So it's like,
Okay.
no, he nurses it well. He takes care of it. You know what I mean? Where if we're using it to run on emergency calls, it wouldn't last long at all. You know what I mean? So
Do you have like average miles that goes on the truck? I mean, because I would assume it's just around town that most of the
no, it
miles
doesn't
is
leave
put
town.
on.
Most of, yep, you're right.
Except for training,
Yep.
yep.
So it's like, I don't know, I haven't figured that out. I'll have to ask him if he has that,
Okay.
that information available.
Yeah, so I mean, to kind of piggyback on Lisa, I mean, if it's certain miles, per month, I hesitate to buy giant honking truck with giant honking plow if it's only over to the apartments, up to Cabela's, over somebody's house. I mean, just
Yeah,
trying to be
I don't
fiscally
think-
responsible.
I don't think that's the only reason that they use it, though. You guys use it to put equipment in the back.
Yeah, a pickup truck.
Talking about 2 different vehicles. Car 2 is a pickup truck. A pickup truck is utility purposes,
Yeah.
to haul hose, equipment,
Okay.
contaminated gear,
Yeah.
so forth, and to shut roads down, sign, multi-purpose.
Any purpose that needed the pickup application, that would be used.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it can pull the trailers that they get outside and so forth. And I think like you said, Lisa, the truck isn't the best thing to do that, but if you have to do it for the first year, while the other vehicle, it doesn't make any sense to me where I'm looking from, where I was sitting when I saw the repairs that were needed on that, to spend a lot of money in that car, but just like kind of like get it to last through till July 1st, and then when that other vehicle comes, they could share it for a year. Then I would hope that they would look at that. And the car that was looked at was a hybrid, one of those small all-wheel drive escapes for inspections. Yeah, so that was what was looked at, and get something that was nice and green, really good on, you talked about gas mileage before, would be really efficient on that, and it's used like that, and it's sometimes used like for emergency vehicles, like the deputy said, you gotta block a road, go do something out in the street, so it's flexible, it's like a toolbox, it's got a lot of tools in it, and use the one that you need that particular day to make the mission successful.
Yeah. But
So-
the truck you're talking about is the one where you guys throw the equipment in the back, so you
Yeah,
don't have
and
to be in a
Yeah,
vehicle with
it's like
it, and
it's not like a half-ton, I think it's a three-quarter ton one. It's like, I'm not just familiar with the numbers that go with but I'm like 99% sure it's like a three-quarter. It just has a plow on it, just to make things easier and take the edge off, like we said before, the highway during a storm.
So are the cars like beyond repair to go to Assabet to get floorboards and transmissions and things like
I'm
that?
not
Has
sure
that
what
been
Assabet
looked
has the
at?
capability to do. I know
Do you
there's
know?
like,
It's got no brakes.
yeah, there's a quite list.
Well, you have a hole
in
in
the
the floor.
Yeah,
So-
put your feet up. Yeah.
It's like-
But
it's like a Fred
brakes,
Flintstone
exhaust, front
thing.
struts. Yeah. No, I'll send Mary the list about it, and I actually had all those, like, identified and put a price tag on, then also the label with doing it. So I have that, so I can send that up to Mary, and you can look at that for yourself.
That doesn't even sound like it would pass inspection. It doesn't sound safe.
I
Nobody
think
should be
you
driving it.
won't, we gotta put at least tires on to get an inspection sticker. So it's like, the other things will be like.
Price keeps going up.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe,
like,
yeah.
We'll talk about
It's
this in more
challenging.
detail when we
Yeah.
talk about capital too, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Awesome.
Okay.
yeah, it was a lot of discussion on it when we did go to Capitol.
that's good.
A lot of positive discussion.
All right. Oh,
Okay, where are we? Oh, and then one of the safety enhancements that we're doing is repurposing, we're doing an inventory of all the portable radios. And they're gonna be inventoried to make sure that, see how many we got, serial numbers, all that type of stuff, what type of style they are, because it's like 2 or 3 different styles. And we're gonna get to the point where we can issue them, all personnel, their own radio. So if they're in a building and they don't have a radio and they need to call for help, they can call for help. So we want to be issued one, a charger, a spare battery, and a lot of guys like to carry it in the pocket, a lot of them carry it in the, like I do in the leather side thing with the strap around your neck. So it's like, that's a critical safety thing when you can get that, and the number is there. We don't have to purchase any, we might have to do a small purchase on some batteries, but there's enough number of radios to do it without buying new radios.
So now there's enough radios for all our guys and gals to be, if they need it.
Equipped. They'll be
Okay.
right with their turnout gear, they'll have a charger, and they can like bring it, and whenever it's their responsibility to keep it charged, bring it with them. So it's like, and everyone, if someone gets in a building and needs help, everyone should be able to ask for help.
Okay.
And there's also a question on the new pumper tender. The contract has been finalized. The pre-build meeting was held at the factory with the truck committee. I think a high percentage of the truck committee went down there, and they go through the spec. And Margaret knows how many pages it is, page by page by page by item. So it's like, it's gotta be what, this thick? you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the way trucks are made. That's all, you gotta do them
From
all. Even
scratch.
the ambulance is like that, you know what I mean?
So you buy just the shell, and then you add stuff to it.
You add stuff on your specs, and they bring a shell in, and they add to it at the factory. Yep, they
Holy
go, this one
jamali.
needs this, and this, and this, and it's actually an interesting process. Been through it a lot, so it's like, the same, they do for ambulances, everything gets the same way. So
It
push
takes-
trucks, everything.
It takes a little shorter than a year, 300-plus days.
Yeah, yep, takes a while. It's being made someplace, it's like 6 hours away in PA. down the Kovacs Mobile Equipment, KME.
And then they'll drive it to us, we get to go down and get
They
it.
have to drive it back because it's a test. It's a test for
So
the
they get
vehicle.
stuck on the side of the road?
It's in part of the, it's a part of the contract that's driven from the factory to the dealer, which is in Hopkinton.
Okay,
It's Bulldog Fire Apparatus, which is the New England dealer for KME. So it's like, had good luck with some of this stuff, so it's like a pump attendant like this, an engine and an ambulance, so it's like,
Through the chair, I think there was a sunset clause put on that article that requires expenditure by June 30th. So at town meeting, there's going to have to be an article to amend that.
Okay,
Just an FYI. I've added it to the list.
okay.
so it's kind of like where we are. That's very respectfully submitted. That's where we are for the month of November.
you guys are busy.
Been
Yeah.
busier, yeah.
I'd rather have the
We're not
clauses
good.
on there than,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and have to extend them than.
I'm sorry, what?
They were talking about the clause on the
the
Oh.
money
sunset
that we were
clause.
gonna say, if you don't use it by blah, 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 we
Yeah.
gotta extend it.
Okay. Is there any questions for the chief?
I think we grilled them enough.
Well, thank you
All set?
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, chief.
Yep,
Have a happy holiday.
yeah, same.
All right. Moving on to the town administrator report.
I won't put it on.
I have a few things in my report that are actually agenda items, so I'll skip over those because we'll be dealing with them on the agenda. Related to the budget, though, the administrative finance team, that's the accountant, assessor, treasurer collector, and me, we will be presenting budget updates to the finance committee Wednesday evening at 7:30. We're just going to do a brief presentation, primarily go over revenues, and just let the finance committee know what our recommendations are and how we'd like to see the budget process move forward. I am still working on the historical analysis and projections for use of mitigation revenues and expenditures, at least over the past 3 years. Library septic, we are going to be meeting with DEP at the DEP offices in Worcester either on January 14th or January 16th. I will be confirming a date. We have a small group of local officials that have been participating in the process. I did hear from Evan Carloni, who is our volunteer designer for the systems. If the town does move toward the option that incorporates the well requires a PE, an engineer, and he's not an engineer, so we would lose him at that part of the process. So we just have to keep that in mind. We'd have to procure separate services. As of the last snowstorm, or early last week, there was about $40,000 remaining in the FY20 snow and salt budget. So I think the board's going to have to expect that a request will come forward to deficit spend the snow and salt line. And I know we're getting more tonight and into tomorrow, so there'll be more spending going on. You see that we got new copiers. They were delivered on the 12th. We have finisher units that still have to be put on, and we'll have training on the new copiers later this week. Now, today was a day for all kinds of grants. News on grants. First, the Housing Choice Grant. Thank you, Lisa. We were awarded up to $100,000. It's for Housing Choice, Small Communities Housing Choice Grant for reconstructing the 23 Linden parking lot, the parking lot outside this building. The entire project is about $230,000. The whole amount up till today was on as a projected capital cost, but now we could deduct $100,000 from that through reimbursements.
That's great.
The municipal, the MVP program that I've been talking about for a few months, we did receive confirmation today that we've received a $20,000 grant for MVP planning. Once we get through the planning stage, and this is going to involve a lot of the community, we're going to have a full-day community outreach workshop and things like that. Once that is done, we will be eligible for grants under the MVP program at the state. So looking forward to getting that done. Cybersecurity awareness training, I am going to be going to a local coordinator webinar this Friday at 9 a.m. to see what's involved with local coordination for that training program. We also received news today on the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act Planning Grant for ADA self-assessment, and we just found out we received $24,000 in a grant award on that one, and we will be working with CMRPC on that. They've already gone through and pre-qualified consultants to do the work on the self-assessments, so we're not going to have to go through a separate procurement process. We will be all set with that. Is there anything else? You're going to be talking tonight about the Economic Development Committee, and the Economic Development Committee has expressed concerns that they're having trouble keeping quorum or achieving quorum. We now just got word from the Energy Committee that they've lost a member and cannot reach quorum. So we have to think about ways that we're going to be able to keep these committees going. The chair of the Energy Committee, Tim, sent me some ideas today. I haven't had a chance to look at all the ideas, but it seems as though we have options to try to keep the committee afloat. And it's especially important with green communities that we keep an energy committee in existence to be able to come up with projects and maintain the green communities list. So those are my updates on my report for tonight.
Terrific. All right, we'll move on to the 2020 license renewals.
Okay. So,
There's a stack of them again.
there's a stack of them in here. We have Berlin Farms, Noria Energy, Riverbridge Shell. We have Wheeler's Garage. Those are the three that you're going to be signing tonight, if you so approve.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the next item on the agenda is to talk about the Economic Development Committee and the unappointment of Shannon Clancy.
Through the chair, the board received word through the property owner at Riverbridge that Shannon, who is a current member of the EDC, intended to resign from the committee because of her schedule. She just could not attend meetings. We didn't hear from her directly, and because we didn't hear from her directly, the board and planning board will have to take this action. And so this just, I have a letter here for the board to sign. It expresses appreciation for her interest in serving the town. It also expresses the board's understanding that she intended to resign. So, and to notify her of the unappointment.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Motion to sign.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
It's just you.
No.
This will be going to the planning board after after the chair signs.
Did I say all in favor?
Yeah, she did.
Aye.
Aye.
Yep.
Thank you.
And on to a butter notification radius for liquor license applicants.
All right, so I revised, I can't remember when I actually did this recommendation, but I did an original recommendation based on a couple of models I had seen from other mass municipalities. One was from the town of Dennis, the other one was from the town of Belmont. The board had talked about extending the radius for notification to abutters for alcohol licenses. And after looking at these two models, I decided to present two options to the board. One would be that all abutters required to be notified by statute be notified in accordance with the statutory requirements, and then extend notice to all abutters within 500 feet of the premises through a certificate of mailing. The certificate of mailing does not give evidence of receipt of the letters. It gives evidence of the mailing of the letters through numbered, well, if there were that many, there would be numbered items with the addresses on a list that's stamped by the post office. Now then, I decided to add the other option, which the model I used was from the town of Belmont, and that I think it actually does streamline things a bit more as far as the process goes. What this would do is just notify all abutters by registered mail return receipt within 300 feet of the, I think it's the boundary of the property on which the premises sits. And then it would notify all schools, hospitals, and churches within 500 feet. And there are additional requirements when you notify those institutions. So if I have to make a recommendation, I think for consistency purposes and to assure that there's evidence notices have been received, I would recommend going with a 300-foot notice to all abutters except for the schools, churches, and hospitals.
Why 3 than 5?
It's just the mailing
Three
issue.
was, well, three, I mean, you could do 5. 3 is consistent with other governing statutes. We went back and forth with the zoning board, for example. So when there is a notice, that's a 300-foot notice. And I think there were a couple of other things that I put in here.
There's a lot on the form. It's zoning board, planning board, or
Yes.
poll petitions. Most things are 300 feet.
Yeah, 300 feet would be consistent with most others. And to be perfectly honest, when I went through all other towns' rules and regulations, policies and procedures, the vast majority of towns just use the statutory requirements. They don't go beyond. So I thought that this would be a fair option.
Okay, comments,
Move to
questions?
adopt option B.
You're
Option
making a
two.
motion to adopt
Yep.
option B,
Or
okay?
2, I think it's 2 on there. It's the second one.
The one
The
with
one
the
that
300
Margaret is
feet.
recommending. Yep.
Yep.
So I can read, if you'd like, I can read the amended section C of your guidelines. Then it would read, new and transfer license applicants are required within 3 days of publication of the legal advertisement to notify all abutters within 300 feet of the property line of the applicant as they appear on the most recent applicable tax list via U.S. Postal Service certified mailed with return receipt requested. Green cards. And then it goes on to say if your premises is located within 500 feet of a church, synagogue, hospital, elementary, or secondary school.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Yes.
Okay. Any more comments, questions?
No, all good.
Okay, call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, Margaret, nice job.
You're welcome. Moving on to the HR consultant.
Okay, so this is tied to yet another grant. We received, and I'll be bringing this to personnel on Wednesday night, we did solicit quotes. We actually reissued a solicitation for quotes for the human resources work for development of a wage and salary classification plan and personnel policies and procedures. The quotes ranged from, and I think I mentioned this at your last meeting, they range from $13,500 to $28,500. I found all 3 vendors who quoted the project were responsive, so they responded with the detail we were looking for. And my recommendation is actually to contract with the vendor who provided the quote that meets the grant funding we received. So that is Human Resources Services Incorporated, the quote was $13,500, which is the amount of the grant that we received. And they will do the whole project, both tasks 1 and 2.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
So seconded.
Okay. Questions, comments?
I just thought it looked great, the RFQ that came
RFP.
back, or RFD looked great.
They've done work
Yeah.
in many
It
towns.
looked like a really good choice.
Yeah.
Why do you think such the large discrepancy between
Okay, I can tell you.
13, 8, 28?
Okay, the
Yeah.
28 is very easy to explain. They're located in Illinois. And their costs included travel.
Come on out, okay.
Oh, my gosh.
And they did have significant costs there with
Oh
travel.
my God, bringing somebody in from Illinois to do that here.
They did work in Shrewsbury recently.
Wow.
Really?
Wow, because Massachusetts is really complicated
Mhm.
comparatively.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. I think we have a motion and a second.
See,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Down to new business, the FY21 budget approvals.
Okay. Do you have the budget documents in front of you from the Google Drive?
No.
no.
And was that the one that was just sent today, Margaret?
Well, I replaced it. There had been one in there before, but I replaced it today with just a revised one. All right, so without the sheets before you, I'll just go, well, we do need the
I can
sheets.
pull it up and on here.
Well,
and
one of the
share.
things I was going to say was I didn't really have a chance to look at it. Unless you wanted to walk us through it. You mean the one, you're talking about the one with the 4 different,
Revenues sheets.
yeah.
Yeah. I'll just briefly go over the revenues piece, but what I really wanted to try to do tonight was have the board start going through approvals for certain budget requests, and I did do
go
a
through
column.
the budgets,
Oh, okay, good.
but I didn't have a chance to look at this really closely.
Okay. So I'm not going to be, our revenue projections, when I say ours, I'm meaning the administrative finance team. Our revenue projections are very preliminary. There are still a lot of moving pieces with the projected revenues. The key things, I think the key takeaways from what I have in here, and it'll continue coming to the board, but one of the things that I can't stress strongly enough is that when we use local property taxes, that number, it really does have to be the number from the recap sheet, which is the prior year's levy limit plus 2.5%. So we have to stick with that and not allow that to fluctuate too much. Otherwise, the higher it goes, the more we dip into excess levy capacity, and the higher the taxes are. So that's just, it's just kind of a rule of thumb thing. The other thing, given the fact that we'll be talking to the finance committee about this strategy to try to control increases in taxes. I think the town has had the ladder truck on the budget paid by the tax levy for a few years now. So we're trying to control revenue increases, we're trying to control budget growth, and so my recommendation to the Finance Committee, and I've also presented this just as an initial recommendation to the Capital Planning Committee, is that at least the FY portion of the debt on the ladder truck be paid from free cash or mitigation. This year in particular, we have a large amount of certified free cash. And a good portion of the certified free cash is derived from one-time revenues. Those were the permit fees that were collected for Riverbridge. So it's almost $350,000 in permit fees that were received that are reflected in our certified free cash that we're not going to see again next year. What better use to put that little portion of money to than into a one-time item like the debt service on a capital item inside the budget rather than have the taxpayers bear the burden of that cost. So I've presented in these sheets that I've put into the Google Drive, I've given you a couple of scenarios, again, just food for thought, and I'm going to be presenting this to the Finance Committee, and they can discuss it as well. There's one option in here which would fund the entire payoff of the ladder truck in FY21. It's $235,601. It would fund the entire payoff in FY21, which is a year early. So you'd avoid about $5,000 in interest payments from FY22, and it would put the entire amount of the ladder truck payoff on, out of free cash or mitigation instead of the tax levy. The other option I put together in case the payoff isn't palatable to the Finance Committee and the board is to at least pay the FY21 payment on the ladder truck from free cash or mitigation. That would be an amount of about we still have to refine this number, but about $119,912. That would still leave outstanding debt service in FY22, which we could look at using free cash and mitigation funds that year. It would also, the FY22 payment would also include that $5,000 or whatever in interest. But again, it's pulling the money away from the tax levy to fund the ladder truck and putting it on other appropriate one-time funding sources. This is going to allow the tax levy to be shifted to pay for recurring costs inside the operating budget. So it's going to sustain the operating budget. The operating budget in the case of paying this FY21 payment, the operating budget could increase by $476,875 or 3.4%. I know that's a lot lower than last year's budget increase. And if the entire amount is paid off, the entire budget amount could increase by $592,564. So, in order to become more stringent about the way we apply our tax levy, I think this is a way that in these first couple of years we can kind of make that adjustment where the tax levy continues to fund recurring operating costs and it doesn't overburden the taxpayers. So that's just kind of an overview right now.
Good explanation.
Now, the other piece of this is the debt exclusion. We talk about excess levy capacity. The town essentially, and there's a lot to study up on here, but essentially the town's excess levy capacity is the debt exclusion amount. So the town has excluded debt on the highway garage and on Tohoto, the Tohoto reconstruction.
And the Assabet?
Maybe
that's being paid.
I don't. It could be. I apologize. I've been taking crash courses in the
Yes.
excess levy capacity here over the past weekend. But so anyway, there's this bundle of money that is excluded debt, and when you look at the maximum allowable tax levy, that is the total of the prior year's local property taxes or the prior year's tax levy plus 2.5% plus new growth plus debt exclusion. This town has not included the debt exclusion in its funding sources for the operating budget. So by excluding the debt exclusion piece and not including that in funding sources, that has been attributable, or the excess levy capacity has been attributable to the debt exclusion that hasn't been applied to the tax levy. So, or it hasn't been applied to the local revenue sources for the budget. So when the debt exclusion works like when you exclude debt, it allows the town to tax over the 2.5% for the purposes of this debt. So the debt exclusion lasts as long as the debt is on the books. When the debt goes away, the debt exclusion goes away. So guess what? For the town, when the debt goes away and the debt exclusion goes away, the town's going to be losing a lot of its excess levy capacity, and that's another reason we can't tap into the excess levy capacity that much. Okay, so we can't get too used to that. So there you have it, in a nutshell. So I've got two scenarios here. only for discussion purposes at this time. We'll be presenting a lot more information to FinCom on Wednesday night, and the team will come back and talk to the board on January 6th. We'll basically be given the presentation overview again that we're doing with FinCom, and just give everybody more to think about. So, okay. Now, budget lines. Do you want to go through the budget lines? And, oh, thank you. Just, I think the
I don't want to make a lot of
expense,
noise, but.
just the expense, yeah, that one, just the
We're gonna make
expense.
a couple more.
Yeah. So if you want to just pass that one down.
Well, we can share. Mary
Okay.
Chris and I can share.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've highlighted mine
got
so I
it?
can see. This font is...
Lisa's got it.
This font is pretty small.
Woo!
Okay,
God,
so...
good thing I got new glasses.
We're gonna
Crap.
call this the approvals for the
did.
low-hanging fruit. So these are some of the earlier budget requests that we received and had vetted, and a lot of these are level funded or very easy to explain. So we'll start with moderator. He is requesting level funding in his budget, $50 for salary, $85 for expenses. So I do recommend that the board approve that one. And would you like me to just go down the list? Okay.
Yeah.
The next one is selectman salary. This is the salary for elected officials only. We have some, I think we still have some more discussion that needs to happen about workload capacity, things like that we really need to talk about other areas. But for the elected salaries, the request for FY21 is $33,747, or 1.5% increase, and I would recommend that. The next
15%
line,
Or 1.5%
Yep.
increase.
1.5.
that's the
Yep.
COLA that was
COLA.
approved by
Yep.
personnel. The next line would be a new line. It's called consulting. And what this line has done is it has taken the amount that the town is obligated to pay Weston and Sampson engineers each year, which had been paid out of the legal expenses line. It just didn't make a lot of sense being kind of buried in legal expenses. So Mary pulled that out. And we also added...
Just the dirt for Maplewood.
Okay.
Oh, all right, so we also added a small, that would be about $15,000 of this $20,000 requested. The other $5,000 would be for any kind of various uses. For example, this year, we used some funds to pay the solar consultant. We used some to pay MRI for backgrounds and things. So this would give the board $5,000 to be able to pay for various consulting projects.
So is that ever gonna go away, the whole Maplewood stuff? I mean, what year are we on now?
Have you?
I don't
you
know
haven't
what
even
year
opened
we're
that
on
can of
now,
worms
but-
yet, have you?
I've only started to read the agreement. I have
Yeah,
the
that was-
agreement.
At some point, I'm.
That was
assuming
actually going to be one of my questions and comments from the selectmen, is if you have,
I haven't had a chance to do, I've
Yeah.
been busy with Riverbridge, and I do want to
And
look
that's
at
Yeah.
definitely
that,
the
but
priority, too.
yeah, I was puzzled when I first heard about this recurring cost on the town, but, and
the-
I will.
And the ACO, I mean, has it been agreed to or not?
For, like, any update from DEP?
Yeah.
I have to
I
look
do not
into.
think it has. We signed off saying it was okay with us, but
Well, we're going down to DEP in a couple of weeks.
we might want to put that on the list of questions.
I'm gonna circle
So-
that because,
okay.
yeah, we need to get rid of that. Okay,
Well, I mean, there
Well,
isn't any
you can't-
getting rid of
there's
it right now.
A legal.
forever and
It's a-
ever.
It's
It's
a
a-
it's a
it was a
contract
Right now, but-
agreed to by previous selectmen.
It's a legal settlement agreement,
Yeah.
so I would guess that it's something that we could work on, but it's probably going to take some legal input,
Yeah.
additional legal input, and some work over time to.
So what?
It's not an easy fix.
So 15,000 has come out of the selectmen's budget.
No, out of
No,
legal
out of legal
expenses.
Legal
expenses.
expenses,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And you've,
5,000
Done it.
out of the expense line, out of the board's expense
Okay.
line, but it still leaves significant funding in the expense line.
okay,
The board had built in extra money in the current year to pay for extra human resource consulting costs.
Yep.
So that's not going to be
Okay.
the case next year.
okay.
All right, so I would recommend establishing the consulting line and pulling those costs out so that we have a little more flexibility to pay consultants. I'm not making a recommendation yet on the expenses line. I'll bring that back to you. Town admin salary, the reduction would be $1,000 because of the agreed to contract wages. And I would recommend that. The expenses would go up $550, and the reason for that entire $550 would be for a document shredding service that has been formally paid by the fire department, but it covers townwide services. And this is actually, the $550 represents a significant savings from the prior document shredding service. It's about a third of the cost of the one the fire department was paying for. So I would recommend that small increase, and then I will take care of the coordinating the document shredding.
Is there any penalty, Margaret, for bailing out of that contract for the other?
I'm actually looking into that right now, but they haven't even gotten back to me yet. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to send them written notice that effective on, I think I'm going to make it effective even this fiscal year. We have the contractor that I did find is fully insured, works, they do work for the city of Marlborough. They're located in Marlborough. They do shredding on-site, and they provide a certificate of the shredding. So it's a much better, more effective service. So I'm going to give notice to the former company that will, where are we at now? December, maybe effective February 1st or March 1st, that we're done, and they can come pick up their bins.
Especially if you don't hear from them.
I'll just notify them, and maybe they'll leave their bins with us. I don't know. So,
Was some of the work off to do shredding? Were some of the work off?
I don't know. I don't even know
I'm just
where a
wondering.
shredder exists in-house. Maybe downstairs.
Or maybe maybe it was all that went into the box.
They just
and
put
then
it in
was
the box,
taken
yeah.
away.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
Yeah.
can't remember.
Yeah.
yeah.
But, you know,
All right.
going through documents tends to be a big work off thing.
There are a lot of documents to
There are
go
a lot
through.
of documents to go through.
All right, so I would recommend that. The next is the accountant's expense line. They are essentially level funding. I think they actually just have a very small, increase in, I think it's their
Label report
Vadar
to us. Maybe
expense.
that's why.
So it's software. That's line 13. I should be doing it by line number.
No,
That
no,
would help
no,
you.
no, we're fine. I
Okay.
had just asked, I noticed that you skipped over FinCom and Reserve Fund.
I did. I have not plugged in numbers there yet because I have not received those yet.
If you look over, there's a TAR. I'm
Yeah.
assuming those are the ones that you're going over.
Those are the ones that I'm going over. The ones that say TAR in that
Yep.
little shaded column, those are the ones that I'm going to go over with the board
Okay.
tonight. Okay? So I would recommend that small increase in the accountant's expense line, and that would represent a small increase in the software cost.
Is it possible when putting together like a sheet like this that you could see, well, it does say percent increase requested.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Okay,
And,
so
you know,
the
the
accountant-
percents,
So,
the percents...
17% roundup,
Mhm.
but that's the software that they got, because
Okay.
June was using stuff that was expired last year.
No, the actual increase
be
in
a
the
0.4.
expense line is 0.4%. So the
Expenses,
six,
yeah.
Oh, I was looking at salary up here.
yeah, I
Okay.
have not, I'm
We
not...
have to get our,
There is a request for, there's a request for additional hours there, but I'm not prepared to make a recommendation on that just yet to the board.
Okay.
Okay, the next line, line 14, audit, that reflects a decrease because the schools are no longer audited as part of the town's independent audit, so that's a decrease of $3,000. So the request has gone from $31,000, or the approved amount of $31,000 down to a requested $28,000 in FY21. Assessor's salary, just like the board salary, this reflects a 1.5% increase in the elected officials' salaries, so it's an increase of $35, going from the FY20 approved $2,287 to FY21 requested $2,322. Just stop me. I'm going to just keep moving on.
Yeah, just keep going.
Okay.
Yep.
The next one, line 20, treasurer collector salary. These amounts reflect what the town has offered in salary. This is an increase of 1.5% in the full budgeted amount in the treasurer collector's salary. He is also putting in for the treasurer collector incentive in FY21 so that he would be eligible to get that $1,000 incentive on top of his salary if he does get certified. The next one is legal expenses, and we just talked about this. The $15,000 has been taken out for the Weston and Sampson costs in that settlement agreement.
So, Margaret, while we're on expenses, I know that the town has worked with KP Law for a while. Is there any thought of looking elsewhere or sending out RFPs, or are they like the be-all, end-all because they take care of the majority of the state?
Wow. Well, the short answer to that is we could look for whoever we'd like. I have a long history with KP, and overall I've been pretty successful at getting them to be responsive. But that doesn't mean that we can't look for somebody else. Now, I know the town uses different labor council, and we also have to consider the rates. You know, we have to make sure that we're paying, that the rates are cost efficient for the town that we're getting.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I would like to look outside just to see, but at the same time, too, obviously very cognizant of, Acme Law Inc. comes in and says, hey, $50 an hour. We go, okay, and then year 2 through 7, it's $1 bazillion an hour.
Right.
So, very cognizant of that, but,
Right. Yeah. We could issue an RFP for the coming year and see what we get back.
Yeah.
And typically, the managing partners would come in and actually do a presentation and things like that. So we can certainly work on that.
Or we could also see how it is with Margaret actually here and managing that
Yeah.
relationship. I think it's already
See
been
that.
better, frankly, and then see what she has to say next
And I
year.
know that a lot of
At
the
times.
big dollar issues have kind of settled. So they're not coming in all the time and we're not constantly calling them. They've kind of,
But at the same time, we want them to know we're here, and when we need them, we need
they
them.
need to come.
Well,
Correct.
that's just it, being responsive. And if it's a couple of dollars more and they're responsive, and it takes them less time to do the work, it could actually cost the same, or
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to say less.
Yeah.
But-
Well, we could do a request for proposals if if you'd like to look into that. That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Let's think
Sure.
about that one.
Yep.
In fact, you could even, Lauren herself, the managing partner of KP, is going to be here on, January 7th in the evening to do a presentation for all boards, committees, employees, and you might be able to have a chat with her then.
Okay. All right.
Okay, the next is tax titles. These have gone down significantly because some of these items are satisfied. So I am recommending that. That's line 25. The next one is elections, part-time wages. This is going to be a big election year. FY21 will be. So Eloise has an increase showing here of $400. She is confident that this amount would cover the part-time wages for both this would be for the state primary and the general election in November. And she's also confident that the increases in expenses would cover her costs to prepare and conduct the elections. So I recommend both of those lines, 31 and 32. Line 35, registration expenses, same thing. With an election year, we're going to have a bump up in the number of registrations, but she feels that the increase of $5 in that line will be sufficient. I haven't yet
5.3%.
recommended the part-time wages one. There's a few things I have to go through on that, but I do recommend the increase in the expense line. That's line 35.
Yeah, I think there needs to be an awareness too, that when Eloise eventually retires, that the expenses in that area are going to go way up. She is,
She's not allowed
by
to.
choice, grossly underpaid.
I know.
Now onto the next page on lines 62 and 63, animal inspector salary and expenses. This account is level funded except for the salary does go up by 1.5% as recommended by the Personnel Committee. So the total increase in that budget is $30, or 1.5%. Line 74, streetlights. So there are a few changes to streetlights this year. We are recommending a slight increase, even though we are using energy efficient LED light bulbs in most of the streetlights now. We do have to begin budgeting for repairs and replacement for those fixtures. So I am recommending a $3,000 increase in that, specifically for repairs and replacement of the fixtures. And we haven't been through a year cycle yet with the new lights, so we do want to kind of evaluate what the savings will be there. So that's line 74. Section 500, line 79, Board of Health salary. This reflects a 1.6% increase, and the only reason it's 1.6% is the way it calculated. It's a $30 increase, $10 for each of the elected board members on the Board of Health. Line 81, Board of Health expenses, that is proposed to be level funded, and so I am recommending that. Whoa, okay. Next, festive events. That is recommended to be, has been requested to be level funded, and I am recommending that at level funding at $2,100. And finally, debt and interest. Dennis has calculated the total amount of our debt service at $555,481, a 5.4% increase in debt service, or $28,480, and I recommend that as well. Now, he does budget the full amount, the full balance of the ladder truck in this, just so you're aware that he does budget that, and then pays down the note each year. That's it. I think that might be it. And that's all I have for tonight.
So, Mary, I know you have the books. Can you, just for my own knowledge, can you tell me what the budget was last year?
Oh, I can do that. The budget last year was $13,873,000. Oh, last year, FY19?
Yes.
Okay, so that's $13 million.
This year.
This year.
Okay, this year it's $13,870,343.
Okay, last year?
Last year, $13,028,819.
Year before?
I can't tell you that. I know. I was on a roll.
Ah, Margaret,
mini
you were on a roll.
I was on a mini roll. I can't tell you that one.
So if that's what you just read.
That's FY19, so it's $12,357,220.
Going back another year?
No, that's fine. So 2 years ago, we're looking at what, $1.5 million increase in total budget?
Yeah, it's gone up. It's gone up significantly. So from FY18 to FY19, it went up $668,861.
Well, they had to do a little math adjust, but not by much, and then that's that's 17.
17.
Yeah.
Recommended change. So it was about, from 17 to 18, it only went up $293,170. From 19 to 20, of course, I don't have this on this sheet here. I know that it was a 6 point, was it a 6 point? I do have it. I do have it right here. It was to 20. Is a 6.5% increase, or $841,524 from 19 to 20.
I mean, I guess what I'm just trying to get at is to see where we are this year, where we were 2 years before, what has been the tax, to our folks in town, what has gone up, because I know there's quite concern with the taxes that have gone out. So just trying to get an idea of what's causing it to go.
Yeah. those are really good points, and I am preparing graphs. Sometimes visuals help a
Yeah.
little bit with these, and so I am preparing graphs for the Finance Committee budget update on Wednesday night that do show growth in the various budget sections. So you can kind of see where we've seen a lot. And you can imagine that education, and now education is under intergovernmental. Those costs have gone up significantly. And there are various budget sections that have seen a lot of growth.
Are all budgets in? Everybody made the cut?
Not all budgets are in yet. And there are, we're still kind of going back and forth looking for clarification on certain budget requests, so.
About how much of a percent aren't in?
Did they come in and then they were turned back?
Some.
to- Yeah.
And then some just haven't shown up.
A few haven't shown up, and it's a very small percent that have not shown up.
So do we flat them? Because, this is an age-old one where, here's the deadline.
Yeah.
Here's the deadline. We talked, the three of us
So-
talked about this last year of you get in or you're flat.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, no, wait. But I'm thinking, it kind of goes back to if we need their help and bless you. And
Bless
again,
you.
you good? Okay, just two.
So the biggest budget section we have, other than benefits and insurance, is intergovernmental expenditures, and all of the education budgets are in there.
Yeah.
Now, and so that is a huge gap in our budget. Right now it's an unknown. We do know that I went to the preliminary budget meeting at Boylston School District, I want to say last week, feels like last week anyway, and they're
was last
talking
week.
about a 4% budget increase, and so how that translates to Berlin, we won't know until we know our percentage, our assessment percentage. Assabet is looking at, Chris, what did Assabet say they're looking at? It was a 4.8. But we also have 6 additional
I thought it
students.
was a
Well, that's what I was gonna say, there's
4.1
more
or
kids.
something. 4.6.
There's more kids going to Assabet.
There are
Yes.
6 more kids going to Assabet in the coming year than there are currently, so we're going to see significant increases from Assabet too.
So that's the total budget increase, though.
Right, that's a total budget increase, and it's going to depend. Our percent of, our apportioned percentage is going to fluctuate a little bit, so we just don't know yet.
Yeah, it's like a 27% increase in our share because of 6 kids.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're going to see some significant
But
increases,
that
and so
could mean that the region goes down. We don't know.
Yeah.
when we get back to the whole revenues snapshot, it's going to make a difference when we see those numbers come in. Are they going to come in well under this $592,000 or $476,000? We don't know. Is there going to be any room for any municipal department budget to grow? And if so, or if not, how are we going to be able to continue to fund municipal services
Right.
based on public service needs? So it's kind of a balancing act.
Kind of going back to Lisa's point earlier about, big truck with a plow. It's like, that's great, but is it a want or is it a need? Because if it's a want, do you need a plow? Do you really, really need a plow on a truck?
And that brings us to the whole green communities. We do have requirements.
I would also like to, Shrewsbury has a really good policy that I brought up before that basically says that the town is going to, when they buy a vehicle, they are going to do their absolute best to get a green-minded vehicle. It's just a
The
guideline.
fuel
It is
efficient
not a
vehicle
rule, but-
policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
And this
and
one
I would
doesn't
like to
sound
see
like
us
it. yeah.
adopt that policy so that every time we buy a new vehicle, we at least go through the process of looking at whether we can do better in this area or not, because
Correct.
that is one of the things that kills our green communities.
It does. And Kelly Brown from Green Communities stressed that at the last meeting I had with her. She said, you're kind of off the charts in your vehicle costs. Your
Yeah.
buildings are doing better. We're seeing some savings, but our vehicles are killing us.
Yeah. I'd almost like to see a chart of what we have, what we want, why we want it, what are the options, rather than just saying, big, huge honking truck with plow. I'm thinking if you need to plow the parking lot, then you call up highway and say, swing through. Swing through and do it, I mean, stuff like that. And I know it's simplistic, but I just think of,
I don't know what the depends on what the plow actually would cost. It may be minimal compared
What is
to,
it? I think it's 3 maybe, unless it's some sort of industrial.
but then you
The
probably have to have a
entire-
bigger vehicle
Well, of
to
course you
have a
do.
plow.
Well, my
Yeah.
F-150 will push a plow.
The board does have access to the capital requests
Yeah.
folder, so be sure to look in there and come up with any questions you have on that. And I know Capital Planning Committee has been kind of vetting the requests too, so.
yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think forward when whoever stands up in front of the town in May and says, we want $800 bazillion to buy 3 trucks. I want to watch everyone's head just explode sitting in the audience, and come up and question, and I want the response to be, we have looked, and this is our alternative, and we have vetted, and yeah, we're taking this, we're gonna buy this truck, but we're taking out 3 vehicles, so it's the cost balance. That's what I'm looking for, not just, I want a truck with a blah, blah, blah. That's gotta
Yeah, you
stop.
have to be able to back it up.
Correct. That
Yeah.
stuff has to stop.
Mhm.
Okay.
So do you want a vote on the TA-R
Yes,
items?
please. Do you have any other
I-
questions
I
on that?
went through
Motion
it.
to approve these. These are, as you said, low-hanging fruit, I think.
They are.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll only
They're
get
the
tougher
easy
from
ones,
here.
yeah.
Yep. And so, did you say you made a motion?
I did.
Okay. Do you want to second it, or you want me to?
No, I would love to.
Okay,
Okay, I second.
all
All
right.
right.
Any other comments, questions?
Oh, there'll be more.
I hate budget season.
That was a good comment.
It's, yeah.
All right. Hearing nothing more besides that, we'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I just have a quick question. Is everyone sticking to the 1.5% increase in the COLA?
So requests haven't necessarily come in with that, but they are going into this budget request worksheet as that.
Okay, because
So
I did
it's been-
notice, well, one in particular that looked like it was more than the COLA.
Yes. The only ones that should be on this sheet that would exceed COLA are ones where Personnel Committee has given information that they are recommending more than the COLA. So there is one that I actually can think of, actually 2. There are 2 that I can think of where the Personnel Committee is going to be recommending. There might be more, but working on it. So, yeah.
Okay, otherwise, I'd like to hear an explanation of why. Okay? All right,
No, there was a lot of investigation and comparisons to other towns.
yeah,
And there are a few people that are much lower. than
Yeah.
Comparable pay.
and that's the kind of explanation
In other towns.
I'm looking
And-
for.
I have to give Claire a lot of credit because she went through a lot of hours going through all of it.
I bet.
Through the chair, does the Personnel Committee usually come to the board with these recommendations for the certain positions?
We didn't have a personnel.
They didn't have them, but they came last
think-
year. I
yeah, they
wasn't
did.
on
They
the
did.
committee.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
maybe,
But that was the
But
first
they were
year.
just like getting up and running again
Okay.
last
Yeah,
year.
last year was the first year that there was one for,
so maybe we can talk about this on Wednesday night then to see when personnel might want to do that.
So I have a question, budget-related, on the town barn. So we know that their electric costs last year were through the roof for like 6 months. What is being done to stop the through-the-roof costs again this year? Is there any adjustments being made to the town barn? Otherwise, we're just gonna hit it again with,
No.
what was it,
What
like
can we do?
$18,000 in
There's nothing-
6 months?
I mean,
Without going to
I
town
think-
meeting and requesting another project of some kind to
really
reduce
what
the
you need is
electricity.
you need the solar project.
Yep,
That was what was intended, and you need the solar project, and I don't know that there's much, you got big old doors that open up,
And the heat just goes,
and I don't think there's even a proper, I think there is one, but I don't think there's a proper, how you blow air down in those. I don't think that maybe functions properly.
I don't know
I
that-
don't remember.
So
Or if there may not even be one, but there was an issue surrounding that also.
this, has through the chair, has there been, did the energy assessment document, that report that was done, did that identify, or was that?
Brand new.
Okay, it
Building's
predates the
brand
building.
new.
Okay, the reason I ask is because the school district is investing $40,000 in doing a complete facilities assessment. They're having a consultant come in and go through all of their buildings for condition issues, for efficiency issues, for use issues, and things like that. And I didn't know if that was something the town wanted to look into doing. I've said this on my town administrator report now for weeks and weeks, that maybe in a future community
We
compact
have
grant.
something from Guardian.
Right.
And also, I think that includes the schools. So before they spend that, we need to probably make sure that that's coordinated with what we already have, and that Energy is aware of what's going on there too, because there's been a disconnect. We do something over here and they do something different over here, but they're essentially the same things. Do you
Okay.
know what I mean?
Mhm. Okay.
It's certainly over at Berlin Memorial.
Mhm.
Those tend to be included in the things that the Energy Committee does as far as assessment.
Mhm.
So I
Okay.
think part of that is in the report that was done a couple years ago.
Okay.
It should at
But
least
the
be.
garage, but the highway
But the
barn
highway
is-
barn was,
Mhm,
I mean, that's
okay.
we've only had that open for, I mean,
Yeah,
we
couple
did the
years.
celebration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
When
the
Dave
short
was
answer to
here.
your question is, like Chris said, if we'd need to appropriate money to be able to look at that and see what can be done and try to do something to reduce those costs.
Yeah, and there should be funding, it probably wouldn't fit the whole bill, but there should be more funding coming for solar projects from the state. But,
Mhm.
all this that's a big project.
Or even geothermal or propane boiler conversions or something like that might be able to save a little money.
It was built to be energy efficient, but that was with the solar panels,
So, yeah, I mean,
you
And they
know.
took them off.
And they took them off to reduce the cost of the project.
So you reduce the cost of the project and you're spending $18,000 over a 6-month period for electric.
Yeah.
Probably another one this year because it's starting to get super cold. So right away, in 2 years, there's your $36,000. If you're gonna spend $40,000 on an assessment, it's almost break even.
and
Yeah.
that's another reason to think about a policy too, if we're going to do updates or we're going to build new buildings, that these take precedence because these do actually pay themselves off.
Yeah.
In addition to addressing things like climate change, they pay themselves off over time.
The
It is the
upfront
only
investment will
thing-
achieve savings in the
Yeah,
long
it is
term.
the only thing with the return on investment that you get on a new building.
Right.
All right.
So,
Uh-huh.
having a policy in place for things like that, where those are a priority, is something as a town we should be doing.
Agreed.
So I have one more question, Margaret.
Sure.
I couldn't find this in the Google Drive. I don't know why.
That would have been,
It is.
it's part of this doc, it's part of the revenues document, it was the last pages on it.
So
Yeah,
I
Lisa.
kept looking for the document that had TA-R, because you mentioned that in your email, and I
Oh,
was,
That's not in there.
When
So
you-
it
yeah.
should be pages,
what's that?
it's at the end of the spreadsheet that shows there.
Oh, which data census one? Oh, the one you just did. I closed it. I went in through here.
Well, you know what I really like is when you send an email and you have a link
It is.
in the email.
It'll get you right
Makes
to.
me, yeah, it gets you right to it.
That's easy, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I can do
Oh,
that.
that's not even a-
But I can also attach it as a separate, I can attach it to an email too, so that it could be pulled out separately. You could actually see it as an attachment to that specific
Yeah,
email.
I haven't been going into, I think you have a separate Google area for your different emails, correct?
So,
This one was in the main folder for tonight.
this one was?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it in there.
I didn't either.
Not one that says not one that says R for the recommendations. That's why I'm wondering if you switched it out,
Right
because it
here.
looks like you
It's there.
switched
When you open it up, does it show them as the last?
So you're under the Board of Selectmen 1216 folder.
Mhm.
Okay.
Every
if you
week
go
there's
to the
a
last
folder.
tab-
And then this one
Your
is in
last
there
tab
too, or no?
Expenses.
Yeah. it's
Yeah,
right there.
that's the one.
Okay,
So where does it say T?
all right.
Oh, you have to make it smaller. In order to fit it in that screen, you have to just reduce the
Pretty
size,
sure that's
view
the
it
same,
smaller,
right?
or view the full thing, whichever.
So
There,
click-
so if you go to the last tab now, expense, there it is.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So
that's
if I
the same
printed
one.
that on legal.
Okay.
it would-
Well, you can even print it on regular size paper, it'll work.
It would have been smaller, maybe.
Can you print me another one of these at some point?
Yes.
In case I can't find it.
I think I'll put it on legal though, so you can,
No, it doesn't matter. This is fine.
okay.
When we used to go to the old FAC meetings, they were microscopic. They tried to fit everything on a
On a page.
page. 20 years of capital items.
Are you getting to Google Drive this
Yes.
way? Okay.
Mhm.
So what I could do, I mean, just to, it's all one document, it's just different tabs in the spreadsheet,
yes.
so, it's
So I
just
may
the
have just
last-
not, well, maybe
Just
I
clicked
didn't
on the
look
tab.
closely enough at each different tab. That's the one I didn't have a chance to look at that closely.
And sometimes when you click on the tab, the viewing size is so big that it cuts off columns.
Oh, I know.
So you have to reduce that.
I think it came up as like this big, and I had to make it bigger.
Wow, that's pretty small.
Yeah,
And anything in there you can download to your machine too
Yeah.
if you need to.
right. Okay, moving on. We did take the vote, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. Dissolve the following committees with letters of thanks. We've got Town Office Space Needs Study Committee, Investment Advisory Committee, Town Administrator Screening Committee, and the Fire EMS Chief Screening Committee.
So my question on the office space needs subcommittee, did we ever get anything back? Ever? Any recommendation, any review, any, hey, we could use this building for, hey, this building has a hole in the floor, hey, nothing?
Well, not since I've been here. I think that we do need to start from scratch with a space needs analysis.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think that's a bigger project than you could give to that sort of committee who all have, most had full-time jobs within the town. I think that's a really large project.
Mary, was there feedback? There was feedback about the town office space.
There was some, not
That-
a lot.
Well, that you could share with Margaret at some
Yes.
point. Yeah, to at least, I know we got feedback. I just, that's about all I
Yeah.
think we really got.
Okay.
So I think when we start this again, that we need
I
to
think-
put very specific parameters in it.
Need to put out another RFP?
Yeah, it might be a good idea to use the building inventory that we received from our insurance company and make sure that we know, all the buildings
Yeah.
that we should be looking at and what their purpose
Okay.
should be. Any?
Okay, maybe a plan for moving forward at some point?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get through budget.
So do I hear a motion to dissolve
So
the
moved.
four
Seconded.
committees? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
So Margaret is putting together a meeting for reviewing the River Bridge documents. What's that?
Mitigation.
The mitigation agreement.
Yes.
And modifications.
Yes. And she'd asked for a member of the board to be involved. I responded and said that I would like to be on this committee after reviewing the documentation myself during the land swap attempt, and met many times with one or both of the Sennies each week as we did the land swap. attempt, and I would like to be a part of this committee.
I would like for us to just post that, because I would be interested also in learning more about that agreement. So we could post it as a meeting, so any of us could go if we wanted to.
Through the chair, I have no concerns with that whatsoever. We can certainly do that. We have 2 dates to choose, 2 dates and times to choose from right now. Either this Thursday, the 19th at 2 p.m., or January 9th, I don't know what day of the week that is, but January 9th at 9 a.m.
Okay.
So there are 2 optional dates, and I do want to,
That'd be a Thursday, so.
that'd be a Thursday, thanks, Mary. I think the sooner we tackle this, the better. We have heard now that the community center might be online, or might get its certificate of occupancy as early as the end of January, and then the first building might be prepared for the COs by the end of February, beginning of March. And I think we need to be sure that we have everything in order to move forward, and we're ready for it.
Okay, what
So,
would it
I'm
was
fine.
This Thursday, correct?
Thursday
This
at 9.
Thursday,
The
2
ninth.
p.m. This
Oh,
Thursday
2.
would be at 2 p.m.
Okay.
And then the 9th.
or the 9th at 9 a.m. I'm thinking that we should shoot for this Thursday at 2 p.m., if at all possible, and that will get us started sooner rather than later. And then
Okay.
if we need to have another meeting on January 9th, we could.
Okay.
All right? So we'll go ahead. Mary, can we post the board for this Thursday at 2 p.m.?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to do that here?
It can be here, but we're going to be sitting around a table, so whichever,
In here?
room 218 maybe.
I'll see what's.
Yeah.
available. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll post and we'll give notice of the room too. This, and I, through the chair again, I want to reiterate that this is a work session. Even though it's posted as a public meeting, we have to get a lot of work done in a short amount of time, so.
Okay. So 2 o'clock this Thursday.
2 o'clock this Thursday.
All right.
Room TBD.
Yep. All right, thank you.
So, well, thanks to the both of you for
Thank
stepping
you.
up on this.
Okay. We have acceptance of a donation to the Berlin Fire and EMS Department from Dora Marie Cummings estate of $10,000.
Motion to accept.
Seconded, very kind.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
There you go.
Board questions and comments?
I have an unanticipated agenda item within,
All right.
that we received within, today we received the grant award for the ADA self-assessment, and my preference would be not to let this lapse over 3 weeks. The deadline to perform this work is the end of June. So I'm hoping that the board could actually vote to authorize me to sign this after I've reviewed all of the contract documents from the state.
Okay,
So moved.
Seconded,
all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's helpful.
That was easy.
Thank you.
Ask and you shall receive.
And the only other thing that I have as an update is about the flat penny. So my recommendation, we are waiting on a few things. The Board of Health is going to be meeting tomorrow night on the Title V issue. I've uploaded a bunch of emails to show that we have received reports from various local inspectors. Building commissioner confirmed today that the inspection passed. So the only things that we are waiting on are a few payments and the Board of Health meeting to determine whether or not they'll give the 2 years allowed under Title V to fix the septic system. So I would ask that the board authorize release of the licenses upon confirmation that all the issues have been satisfied.
What about the water?
The water DEP is actually on that, and we have the email uploaded from DEP saying they're giving the new owners until the end of February to apply for a permit. They have to do a permit for the public water system. So DEP is on that piece.
So we don't have to be concerned about that?
And the Board of Health was gonna give how long for Title V?
Title V allows up to 2 years for the repair of septic systems, but we have to wait to see. That's going to be in the Board of Health's hands. If they choose to allow the 2 years or a shorter period, we'll have to wait and see. It's another reason for holding on to the licenses until we know.
So all
So
of,
we're authorizing you to, or authorizing its release upon,
Confirmation that all of the
Confirmation that all
issues
those are-
addressed. I did do a recommendation
Yeah, there was
on
one that came through.
Yeah, I did do a recommendation, so we would not be issuing any of the licenses until the payments are received and cleared, and the Title V issue has been addressed by the Board of Health.
okay.
so moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm assuming nothing back from ABCC yet?
No. And that's, the alcohol license would be subject to all the issues being resolved and approval from the ABCC, so
Yeah.
that's the one license
Yeah,
that
but I
requires.
just don't want to be the holdup because we're not meeting. It'd be nice to get this business back up and running.
Yep, so we'll be waiting for the ABCC on the alcohol license.
Okay. Board questions and comments?
I have a little one.
Okay.
I noticed and I meant to bring it up when we were talking about the HR consultant, that there might be an implementation cost. Do we have any idea what that might be? And if so, do we need to budget something to make sure that?
My recommendation, the implementation cost is going to be associated with the wage and salary classification plan and any changes in that. My preference is always to wait until later to see what the impacts are on the classification plan. And then if we have to pay, if there's some requirement that we pay retroactively, we can do it. But I'd rather do that than budget ahead, just
Okay.
making an
I just
assumption.
wanted to make sure we weren't
Yeah.
caught in a bind because I
Mm.
saw that going through.
Yeah, good point.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
Just an update on the coloring pages. Electronic ones were sent out to a couple of the parents to distribute. I've got some that somebody please remind me to pick them up off the copier. I'll deliver them to the parents. I spoke with Fire Chief Litchwell, and unfortunately, it's like one of those questions of, well, how much space do you need? Well, I don't know. So, well, where do you want them? Well, it all depends upon how many we get back. So, couldn't really give an answer, so Dave and I left it as, when we get them, we'll figure out where they're gonna go. Maybe they rotate, if for some reason we get a bunch and we only have a little space, puts them up, take a picture, take them down, puts them up, take a picture. So,
Are they going in the backpacks, the coloring pages, so that everybody gets them?
I don't know. If they do, then they'll have to go this Thursday in the
Because it shouldn't
backpack.
just be for a few.
It's, yeah, so
It
it's gonna
should
go,
be-
so that's
normally they
why,
do that via backpack.
right, so that's why we're trying to push it electronically as well, so,
And when
Yeah,
were
they
you
don't
going to get
have a
them
very
back?
good list.
well,
They're
whenever.
responsible for getting them back to you on their own.
Correct,
Because
correct.
it's at the end of the school,
mean, but
it's the
they're
end
all-
of this week.
Correct, but they're all like non-religion, it's snowmen and candy canes and elves and trees and things like that. So nothing specific Christian, Jewish, everybody else that falls within that category. I just tried to make it global, animals type of thing. So to get them all, so we'll see, we'll try. If it works, and if not, it doesn't. Then we have coloring pages for our next coffee talk. But but again, it's just a reach out to the school to, kind of get the kids involved and invite them in. Okay.
Okay. I had one quick one too, is I did get copied on the CMRPC traffic study. Can we maybe just talk about it at the next meeting or one of the next meetings?
Sure. In fact, might not be a bad idea to have those stats for our River Bridge meeting, too.
Okay.
Thank you for that thought.
All right. Then the boards will need to go into executive session. I'm assuming we're still doing this? Still necessary? Okay. The board will go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, strategy for non-union contract employee, the fire and EMS chief, and to vote or approve executive session meeting minutes, and will return to open session thereafter only to adjourn.
Waisaki, aye.
Keith, aye.
Stone eye.
Derek?
Okay, you're back on.
I want to wish everyone out there happy holidays and enjoy
Yeah, go
this
ahead.
time with your family and friends.
And I also have a little something for all of your support.
You're one of us now, Margaret.
Oh, jeez.
I'll just-
I don't want this on TV because I have a feeling I know.
It is your own personal light-up headband.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
that feels-
we'll let you open it
It's
later.
like, thank you. Thank you
So,
very much.
now, we're not meeting next week, and we're not meeting the week after, correct? We're
Right.
done?
Correct.
Okay,
Unless it's absolutely necessary for executive session purposes.
okay, cool. Thanks, Mr. B.